Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today wearing a gold and black look. A company named Valentra sent me these gold earrings and small earrings too. They were butterfly shaped. I'm gonna get up and go get them. But I took pictures of them today for my Instagram and I'll show you guys later. They also sent me an anklet, but I didn't paint my nails and put on cute shoes to take pictures of them. So I'll take pictures of the anklet later, but I wanted to try a gold and black look because I never tried one before. But today I wanted to talk about something that recently happened to me, and I didn't know how to approach this subject. I didn't know how to talk about this in a way that would be professional. So I'm not going to title this video anything related to dentistry. I'm not going to title this video anything related to my previous employer or anything. But I think I'm going to title this video something along the lines of, it's the boundaries for me. It's the audacity for me. But yeah, I just recently left a really toxic work environment, and there were a lot of red flags. I don't know if I'm going to get into all of them, but the thing that really set me off this week was I had a virtual interview. I started applying to new jobs because the job I have now is toxic, and I realized I was getting to my breaking point. I felt it coming. I thought I could prolong it more, but no, I can't. So it was easier for me to start applying to new jobs, and I already started going to interviews, and I had virtual interviews at home on Zoom, and phone interviews and everything. And I found this job that was absolutely great. It was perfect. I vibed really well with the doctor, and after talking to her, I can tell that she had the type of environment that I was looking for. The pay was higher. The hours were better. My days were shorter. This was literally a unicorn job that I don't really see anywhere. And it was the perfect opportunity for me, and it got completely run because of the audacity of my employer. So after my Zoom interview happened, hold on. Let me make sure I'm recording. Yeah, I'm recording. Okay. So after my Zoom interview happened, I the doctor told me her hours, and the hours conflicted with my working hours in my previous job. So she couldn't do weekends. So I was just okay, well, how about we set up a day next week, and I'll just call off work and let my employer know that I need to take that day off. And she was okay, that would be great. Just let me know when you get approved for that, and I'll send you information and have everything all set up for you on that day. So right after I get done with the Zoom interview with this doctor, I texted my previous employer and let her know, hey, I'm going to need Wednesday off of next week. I have some personal things to attend to. She said, it's okay. Well, when you come into work on Monday, just fill out there's this form you have to fill out where if you request a day off, it's a little contract that you sign to request a day off, and you put the day, the date, the day of the week, and you sign your name on it, and the doctor already signed her name on it. All I need to do was print and sign. So I did that first thing Monday morning because I saw it sitting on the counter right before I signed in. So I went ahead, took care of that, and then signed in, went about my day. And as I was setting up the office, turn everything on and setting up the rooms and everything for the patients for today, she asked me oh, I know you requested Wednesday off, but is there a way that you could reschedule whatever you have going on? And I said no. She's well, the reason why I asked is because we have a meeting. And I was okay. And I thought that would be the end of the conversation, but I should have known better because this person had pushed my boundaries before. A few hours go by and she asked me again, and I says no, this isn't really something that you could reschedule or cancel on. I really need that day for something very important. She says, okay, think that's the end of it. No, she asked me again at the end of the day when most people are gone and I'm just kind of like packing everything up for the day to prepare for the next day. Like all the rooms are sterilized and shut down and all that. So I told her like, no, it's not something that I could cancel or reschedule or anything. And I thought that would be enough of it. And this is just 3 times on Monday, okay? So I go home and her consultant, which her consultant is just like this lady that comes by and she handles all the marketing and she gives her ideas on the best ways that she can advertise her business, the best deals she can give to her patients, and gives her like little tips and tricks on how to grow her practice. And she's not a dentist. She is a marketing professional, but she used to be married to a dentist, and she kind of learned like how to grow a dental office based on her experience working with her husband and how they used to grow their business. And she assists other offices to help them grow their business and dentistry. But yeah, like she's not like a regular party office though. She's not there every day. She comes in like a few times a week and she works on a computer and like she's more like a freelancer. She's not really like an employee. But like I got home and I got a text from her basically asking me the same thing that I already said no to 3 times from the doctor. And then she texted me again Tuesday morning on my way to work. And then I get to work and the doctor asks me again and I say no. And then she asked me again in another few hours and I say no. And she was really like trying to pressure me a lot and I got so sick of like it coming from both ends, literally day and night, several times a day, that I was like, well, maybe what's the worst that could happen? Like I didn't want to cancel my working interview because this job was so perfect for me. I didn't want to ruin an opportunity. And I didn't want her to feel like I had more loyalty to my current job than I do to my future job. And like, I didn't want her to feel like I was flaky or anything like that. Like, I just wanted to have a good relationship with this doctor and not ruin it. And I didn't want to let her ruin that for me. But because I got sick of being pressured literally day and night, before and after I come to work, and several times during work, that on my lunch break, I called the doctor's office and I asked her if I could reschedule because I thought, well, the worst that can happen is I just have to do my working interview on another day. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. And I knew that I had such a strong resistance against canceling this for reasons, but I didn't have time to fully process it until after everything went down. So I called her office and an assistant answered the phone. And I told her, my situation, like my job is pressuring me to come to this meeting. Is there a way that I could reschedule my working interview? And she said the doctor is busy. She'll get back to you shortly, when she's available. So I couldn't get back to my work until after my hours are over. And by the time she got back to me, I had already went back to work. Like I was no longer on lunch break. So she left me a voicemail and I returned her call. And she was like, so you can't work tomorrow? Because this was like Tuesday evening before my working interview was supposed to happen. And I was like, actually, I just want to see what was going on with you and let you know the situation that I'm in and see if maybe we can reschedule for a different day. And excuse me, she said no because Thursday is only one patient and I really wanted to finalize my decision this week. I'm just going to end up going with the applicants that already applied, and I'm not gonna, go further with the interview process. I already had another girl cancel on me yesterday and left us high and dry, and she's supposed to be a working interview person. And I said, well, I already signed this contract agreeing to take the day off. Is there a way that I can come in anyway? And she said, no, I already called somebody else to fill a position, so I wish you the best on your endeavors. I'll keep your resume on file in case I need somebody new. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize the job that you currently have. I understand your predicament. I wish you the best in your endeavors. And I was devastated, absolutely devastated after this phone call because that job was literally perfect for me and this job had ruined it. So I was like, well, I might as well come in tomorrow since my plans got ruined thanks to them. But as I was getting ready to go into work on Wednesday, I had this really awful sinking feeling. And I've been having that feeling a lot of times before going into work for the past few weeks. But this one felt really deep, like you really shouldn't go into work today. And I was thinking, no, I already signed a contract agreeing not to come in today. And they kept pressuring me. This is exactly what they wanted. They wanted me to give in to this pressure to do something that works for them and their benefit. They had absolutely no idea what I had going on. They had no idea if it was a doctor's appointment, if I needed a surgery, if it was a funeral, especially during COVID or whatever. They had no idea, what was going on with me and my situation, why I need to call off that day. Granted, it's none of their business, but they had no idea. They never, no matter how many times I said no, I kept being pressured more and more. The doctor asked me 3 times on Monday and 2 times before lunch on Tuesday, and then 2 more times after that. And then her consultant asked me a few different times through text message after I got home from work on Monday. She texted me a few times before going to work on Tuesday. And then she texted me in the evening and I told her I think I might be able to come. I was able to reschedule my plans. But I just really resented the fact that neither one of them ever had any intention of respecting my boundaries and respecting my time and respecting the fact that I needed that day off. Neither one of them had any intention on letting down from that. And I knew that even if I went into work on Thursday, that I would never hear the end of missing that meeting. Even though I had already agreed to take that day off a week before work week had even started. And the purpose of the meeting was for this robot called Itero with Invisalign. And it's a new technology to allow you to scan people's mouths instead of using putty. And you get more real-time results and, can show patients before and after and all that. And we had a meeting like that before, and I just didn't, that was just the last straw in terms of disrespecting my boundaries and giving in to this pressure. And it costed me such a huge opportunity that I would never get back again. And yes, there's other jobs out there. Yes, there's other opportunities. And yes, I've been able to go to other interviews, and I've had other phone interviews. And I have some interviews scheduled for next week, but the one job that would have literally been perfect for me and have the perfect hours and the perfect times and the perfect wage for me, that opportunity is completely gone and I will never get it back. And I'm just so sick of my boundaries not being respected in that office. That's not the first time, that's not the only time that my boundaries have been disrespected or disregarded, or my needs had just not been considered in that place. There was one time in particular where I went off for lunch, and usually when I go out for lunch, when I usually sign out for lunch, I will usually just log out of VeagleSoft and tell the doctor, the hygienist, other assistants, hey, I'm off for lunch. And that's what I did. And I went to the back and I heated up my food. And before I even got to take a single bite of my food, the hygienist runs in and she says, Doc says you have to sign back in and go back to work. And I was like, you have to be effing kidding me. I haven't even gotten a bite of my food. It's already 1:00 and I didn't get to go to break like everybody else did. and she already had one other assistant there assisting her, and then there was two cross-trained assistants in the front. So she could have literally asked one of them. She did not have to ask me, and she knew that I was on break. She told this hygienist to tell me to come back into work and sign off because she needed me. She did not need me, not me in particular or anything. And it wasn't even like it was something really strenuous where she needed an extra person. She literally had me go into the room just to hold a piece of gauze and observe the other assistant assisting her so that I could learn a lesson or two from her because that assistant has more experience than me. That could have happened any other time before I went on break, any other time after I'd been on break, and I had already been in the room with her assisting all day, and there was really no time for that. And then she told me that the next time I sign out for break, she told me that I was no longer allowed to sign out for break whenever I wanted to. I had to check in with this other girl. That girl had only been working in the office for 2 days. And I never had to ask permission to go for lunch. If there's an opening in the schedule and the doctor doesn't need me immediately and there's other assistants available to assist her, I never needed to ask permission to go for lunch. I never even asked her to go to lunch. So I just found it really odd that she did that, and it was just so, like, what? It was dumb. Another time she had me sign out from lunch early, happened like a week or two ago. No, it happened like 2 weeks ago. Okay, so the office is empty, so I took a break. And as I'm eating my food, her patient comes in 30 minutes early. So it was like 2:30, so I was already eating my lunch late. I took my break around 2:15, and it was 2:30, and the patient came in early for their appointment at 3. So, I just assumed that the patient would just be waiting until their appointment came up, and if they needed x-rays, then somebody would get them x-rays and have them seated while I was on break. Either a hygienist or the other assistant that was there. Or something like that. Because that's usually how that happens. That's how that goes. But no. She told me that I had to stop eating and come back from lunch early after only having a break for like 15 minutes to go assist her with the patient. And then she proceeded to rush me as I was trying to put my food back up, clean off the table, go to the bathroom, wash my hands, go to the second lab to get some gloves because she did not keep gloves in the room that were my size. Only gloves for her size were like allowed in the room. Weird ass rule, whatever. And then I had to go to this other lab. There was like a secondary sterilization lab to put on my lab coat, my face mask, my second face mask, my safety glasses, and my face shield, and all my PPE, and then go into the room. And as I'm doing this, she's just constantly yelling my name throughout the office, even though she knows I have to do all those things. So she was like rushing me. After calling me to come out from lunch after only getting a 15-minute break. It was dumb. There have been times where I have signed out for lunch, and if she signs out for lunch around the same time that I do, she'll end up having me do stuff while I'm on break, so I wouldn't really get a break. Like, there was one time where she was like, "Oh, do you have food? Did you bring food from home? Are you going to put something in the microwave?" And I was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Oh, well, while your food's in the microwave, you can be shredding these documents and redacting these other documents. And by the time your food gets out of the microwave, it can be done and you can be productive." I don't need to be productive while I'm on break when I sign out and I'm no longer on the clock. I should have been able to just sit there and wait for my food to get out of the freaking microwave and eat it in peace. There have been times where she would come into the office And she'll be like, oh, are you done eating? Oh, well, if you're done eating, then you're done with break and you come back to work. Like, no, I have 30 minutes. It has not been 30 minutes. I was just sitting here chilling out. And like, if she comes in there and I'm not eating, if I'm just like on my phone or whatever, she'll start asking me to do stuff while I'm on break. And then she would get like an attitude at me for not doing it fast enough, because I would go up to the front and log back into EagleSoft to sign back in, because it's like, you're not about to have me doing work on my break and not pay me. Like, no, I'm gonna sign in. Yeah, when I first started working there, she had us sign out for a meeting for lunch. Pretty sure that's illegal. And the meeting was only supposed to be like 30 minutes, but still, you're supposed to get paid for meetings because that's work related. And I couldn't eat shit there anyways because they ordered pizza and I'm vegan. So if I hadn't have ordered my own food or brought my own food from home, I wouldn't have had shit to eat and I would have had to leave. And I wasn't paid for that time. But that meeting ended up going on for 2 hours. So it was 2 hours that I was not paid for. So yeah. But she stopped making us sign out for meetings because some people threatened to report her or whatever. There are times where, okay, so the front desk girl, she's been there for 3 years. She's in school for dentistry. There are certain days that she can't work. Like, she used to not be able to work on Thursdays, now she can't work on Mondays. Every time she's not there, the office completely falls apart. And the doctor knows this. She never hires a temp to fulfill that role. And she knows that that work needs to be done. And instead of hiring somebody to fulfill that role, she just tries to have me or the hygienist do everything. And obviously, I'm in the back assisting her, and the hygienist has her own patients. And neither of us are like extensively trained for front desk work. But that work still needs to be done. And she would get mad that that work wouldn't be done at the end of the day when none of us are trained for that. And how are you going to get mad at me for the front desk work not being done when you know damn well I was in the back with you all day? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Another thing that she would do that disregarded my boundaries is like a couple of months ago, when this other assistant started, that was like the head assistant, she didn't stay too long. And I understand why. She only stayed like a few weeks or whatever, and she was out. But when she was there, she had like this surgical mask, the surgical hair mask that only covers like the top of your head and like the back of your hair is out. And she had asked me if I would like that, and I said no because it doesn't cover your hair all the way. And if it's not going to cover my hair all the way, then it's basically pointless. And I prefer to wear the surgical one that I have now. And I thought that would be the end of that conversation, but it kept coming up again and again and again and again and again. And then she even had her consultant ask me, and I told her the same thing. I'm like, well, why am I having this conversation with her consultant when I already told her no like several times? So one day she bought the surgical bonnets. No, she bought the surgical hair mask for the office. And at first, it was only her and the hygienist that had one. And after I told her several times I did not want that thing because it doesn't cover my hair all the way, I show up to work one day, and on the front desk, before I sign in, is one of those hair covers that only covers the top of your head. I'm going to try and insert pictures. And it had my name on it. So I just took it, put it in the bag, and left it alone. And as I'm preparing the office, she's like, Ellen, I prefer you wear the surgical hair cover that I got for you. And I'm like, it doesn't cover my hair all the way. I did not even bother to try to put this thing on my head because I knew that it would not fit me. I already told her that it would not fit me. I already told her that I didn't want to wear it because it doesn't cover my hair all the way. And, you know, we had already had this conversation several times. So we just sat there. And then she was like, okay, we'll give it back. I'm like, okay, I gave it back. And she's like, well, I just prefer a more uniform look, and I want a more surgical look, and not so much a chef look, and I don't really like the whole puffy look. It looks chef-like. I'm like, well, this is a surgical bonnet. It's made of the same fabric as scrubs. This is a surgical look. And she's like, well, I just want it to be more flat. It's just so puffy. I'm like, okay, well, those things don't cover my hair all the way. They only cover literally the top of your fucking head. They didn't even cover her head all the way. Her wigs were shedding all over the office, and then she would get mad at me for sweeping up all the time and call it dilly-dallying. When I would be sweeping up her wigs from shedding because I didn't want the patients to see it. Could you imagine how horrified you would be if you went to a dental office and you just see hair everywhere? Like, no. So I would do that in between proceedings and she would get mad about that. But this thing did not even cover her head all the way. And as a result of that, her wigs were shedding all over the office. And it was just ugly and gross. But she mad at me because I don't want to wear it because I don't want my fucking hair out. Especially because she wasn't taking all the precautions that she needed to take for COVID. So yeah, like she just, like she would ask me to do something personally and I would say, no, thank you, it doesn't work for me. I would think that would be the end of the conversation. And then it becomes a conversation again. Like, I already said no to this. Why is this a conversation again? There's no reason that this should be a conversation again. Yeah, like, it was just done. She would, so like the reason why I ended up leaving that office, it wasn't just the yelling. It wasn't just the being blamed for things that had no way of being my fault. It wasn't just the high turnover rate. It wasn't just how she would leave her patients waiting for extremely long periods of time, and then the patients would get upset at me, and I would tell her, like, hey, your patient's waiting, they say they have to go soon, they have a meeting, can you come in the room and speak to them, and let them know what's going on. And then she'd just be like, did you tell them that I would be with them shortly? And I'd be like, yeah, I told them that like 10 times within the last 2 hours, and you still haven't been in the room. There's only so many times I can tell a patient, the doctor will be with you shortly, thank you so much for your patience, before patients get mad at me for being the bearer of bad news. There was one time where she literally was not even in the office, and she would call into the office knowing that she had patients waiting for over an hour, and she would tell me, oh, just tell them I'll be with them shortly. Did you tell them I'll be with them shortly? Yes. But they've been here for over 2 hours and you're not even in the building. They're getting mad at me, and because, like they think I'm lying to them or whatever, and it's like, I don't have control over how this office is run. I don't have control over what the doctor does, and it was done. I would tell my boyfriend about some of the things that would happen, and at first he thought that she was joking. He'd be like, oh, doctor is really funny. And I'd be like, no, she's dead ass. She's serious. This is not a joke. This is not the first time this happened. This is serious, okay? Absolutely freaking serious. And she's being dead ass. Like, this is not a drill, okay? Not a drill. One time in particular, okay, bite blocks are these things that are about this big. If you go to a dental office, they may put it in your mouth, so you have like something to rest your teeth on while your mouth is open, so it's not too strenuous on your jaw. So she only has like a few of those that she actually likes. She doesn't like the adult size ones because those are usually too big, but that's the most quantity that she has. She only had like 3 small bite blocks that she liked, and then there was this one extra small bite block that she really hated. But if she told us not to sterilize the instruments the day before because it wasn't enough to put in the sterilizer, and she didn't give us enough time to sterilize the instruments the morning before the first patient. And the first patient gets there, then I would have to use bite blocks that she didn't like. And one time I put out the like extra small one, because the other ones were in the autoclave. And she was like, when you give me this bite pillow, it really pisses me off and it ruins my whole day. And she was genuinely pissed off for the rest of the day. And I had an attitude. And I'm just like, these are your bite blocks. This is your office. You're in charge of these supplies. I just used what was in your office and what was available. And I just set up for what was appropriate for the procedure. Like, how is that something that I would get blamed for? If you hate these bite pillows so much, then why don't you get more than ones that you actually like, so that, like, it won't be an issue instead of yelling at me. Like, especially when you're like weird about when to start an autoclave. Like, what? Oh my gosh. I just can't. One time I had to go home because I had an anxiety attack because she just was doing the most. She was like in a bad mood and she was blaming us for stuff, and I still didn't even have time to process all the other microaggressions. And that day in particular, I just could not. I just like grabbed my things and left for the day. And I took the next day off for my mental health. And then while I was off, I started applying to new jobs because I was like, I don't deserve to get treated like this. Like, this is crazy. I cannot. I completely understand why the turnover rate is so damn high. I completely understand why people don't stay here too long. She loves to say things like, oh my gosh, nobody wants to work. Everybody keeps leaving. Oh my gosh. And it's like, no. People don't spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on their education for a trade because they don't want to work. People don't put themselves at risk of all these different diseases and viruses on a regular basis, not to mention COVID-19, because they don't want to work. People don't get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to travel 40 minutes to an hour to a job because they don't want to work. People don't show up early and stay late because they don't want to work. People don't bust their ass all day, every day, not only for you and your business, but for the best care of the patients, and make sure that they have the best experience possible because they don't want to work. People keep leaving because you keep trying to ever living fuck out of people, and you start treating people like we don't have options, like we can't go elsewhere. People keep leaving because you act like I don't literally get emails from dentists and other offices saying I have a $700 bonus for whoever applies next. We need people. You act like there hasn't been a mass exodus from the healthcare community hitting the dental industry a lot within the last year. And like offices aren't completely desperate to find assistants. You act like I don't get messages from doctors saying things like, you can temp or work part-time if you want. Just send your resume. You can start immediately. Are you available tomorrow? I will pay you extra for gas. You act like we don't have other places to go. You act like other offices aren't better. Like, it was just odd. It was a lot of pressure to do it. And other assistants were telling me, like, you know, it's not like this at other offices. This isn't normal. And they'd be asking, like, is it always like this? Is she always that way? And I'm like, yeah, dentists are crazy. Like, that's the way it is. And they'd be like, no, this is wrong. Some of the stuff is borderline illegal. Some of it flat out is illegal. And nobody should be treated this way. And they'd be like, well, how come you don't stand up for yourself? And I'm like, well, I'm really new to the industry, and it was really hard for me to break into the field, and I really have to get experience. You guys have years of experience, so you can go wherever. But I have to, like, put it in the groundwork to, like, prove myself before I can go elsewhere, because it's going to look really bad on my resume if I'm only here for a couple of months. And those two people ended up leaving because of how they were being treated. And nobody deserves to be treated that way. Nobody wants to put up with that. So, like, I started doing things to, like, have self-care and peace of mind. Like, as soon as the restaurants and stuff started opening up, I would go out for lunch. And I've been doing that for the past few weeks. There's a cafe, like, a few blocks away from my job, where a friend of mine works there as a barista / manager. I think he's a manager, barista. I'm not sure how that works. But anyways, I would go there every day for lunch so that I could actually have lunch. Even if I only had a 30-minute break, I would still go there. And it would take me about 5-10 minutes to walk there and back again. And then I would scarf down my food and head back. And get a latte in the middle of the day because by noon I was already tired. I was already completely over the day by noon. I needed that little latte to help get me through the rest of the day. And it was nice to have a break from the office. It was nice to have fresh air. It was nice to see familiar faces because I haven't seen my family in over a year. I haven't hung out with my friends in over a year. The only two friends I've seen is him and his boyfriend. The only reason why I saw his partner is because the partner happened to be a patient at the office that I worked at. And I would see him because he works at the cafe a few blocks away. And he posted on Facebook about how he's dealing with a lot of entitled Karens and stuff. And he said, like, he worked in the area that I work at. And I was like, hey, can you, like, give me the address of the cafe you work at, and I'll come and visit you so you have a good day. So I started going there frequently before work and stuff, just to, like, say hi to him and, like, see a familiar face and all. And it was really nice. And also another thing is that she would make us answer the phones when we were on break. So, if I were on break and the phone started ringing, then I would have to answer the phones. And this will cut into my break, not only because I'm talking to a patient on the phone, but oftentimes patients are calling because they either want to cancel their appointment, reschedule, or they're a new patient, or they are, like, asking questions about insurance or whatever. So that means I would have to leave the room, wash my hands, put on a mask, and go all the way to the front and get on the computer to help them. And that would take a few minutes. So if I only had a 30-minute break and somebody called, and it took me about 5 to 10 minutes to help them, and then the phone would ring again, and I would help somebody else, and then the phone would ring again, I help somebody else, and then the doctor started telling me